I honestly have no idea over the past year how many times I've said I'm gonna do my own custom build, but I finally did it. Just a couple videos ago, I said this. I sincerely hope that I build out that KBD 75 and it blows my mind. I really wanna come back with a video and go, oh, I totally get it now. And I gotta tell you, when it comes to the sound and the typing feel, I definitely get it, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Now, obviously going with the KBD 75 V2 is not the most extravagant choice, but I wanted something where if I messed it up, I wasn't gonna feel too bad about it because I had to learn how to solder before I even moved forward with this thing. So today we're gonna talk about the build, what went into it, and we're gonna talk about the value piece going with an entry-level custom like this. You ready? Let's go! Today's video is sponsored by Dakoni Audio. Dakoni, makers of some of the finest headphone replacement pads, have just dropped their famed Bullets replacement ear tips for the AirPods Pro. These are a game changer, and I feel qualified to say that because I use my AirPods every day. The Pro was a big step forward because you could finally achieve that seal that was missing from the originals. Unfortunately, if you've ever spent any time with them, you know the included silicone tips are not the greatest. I find myself repositioning them often throughout the day, and my right ear in particular has to be adjusted just a certain way to maintain the seal, even with the largest set. I don't have to do any of that anymore. They fit right in the case the same way. I just pop them in and I'm good to go. The slow memory foam here is wrapped around the center mounting hub so they don't have to collapse all the way down like a normal memory foam tip, which means no wait time while they situate in your ears. Everything is enhanced from the fit to the comfort, and they offer better isolation as well, so you in turn enjoy more music and less distractions. If you sometimes sleep in your AirPods like I do, these are infinitely more comfortable than the stock tips. You can sleep on your side, literally right on your ear, and it's totally comfortable. If you've ever tried that with the stock tips, you know that's not the case. And these stay put all night. I put them in my ears. I wake up with them in my ears. I don't have like one on the floor next to the bed and the other one like stuck to my back or whatever. These do run true to size, so just order whatever size you'd normally wear in a stock tip. And they do have plans to bring a sampler pack to market soon that contains multiple sizes in one pack. Seriously, game changer. These are available right now on Amazon for $12.99 for a single set or $24.99 for a 3-pack, or you can head to DakoniAudio.com to learn more. Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching Bad Seed Tech, and today we're taking a look at my first custom board. This is the KBD 75 V2 from KBD Fans. Turns out this is a lot of people's first custom build. I'm not sure what it is about that 75% layout, as personally I don't use the F keys a lot, but I don't mind the extra functionality, and I already have so many 60 and 65% boards that I wanted something that felt a little unique. This board was purely a labor of love, as none of the parts for today's build were provided or sent. This project was 100% out of pocket. I'm a big fan of silent switches, so one of the major goals for this board was to put together the quietest build that I could. I also equate weight with quality, so I did take the opportunity to add weight to this keyboard whenever I could. So I went with the silver case, which has a lighting diffuser sandwiched in between the top and bottom. It's a pretty decent case, nice angle, interesting design on the back, a couple little indicators that it's not exactly a premium offering, but it's still nicer than like a basic aluminum case you'd get with like a Hades or a Venus production board. For this build, I opted for a brass plate as it is heavier, which I also like, and I hear it has a tendency to have a more dampened sound. For stabilizers, I went with Durock screw-in PCB mount stabs and smoked grade. These are lubed with 205 grade 0 on the plastic parts and dielectric grease for the wire. Even though it seems to have fallen out of favor lately, I did use Band-Aids on the PCB here. I did not lube them. I tried it with no lube, just straight on the PCB, Band-Aids with lube and Band-Aids without, and I picked the one that sounded and felt best to me. Switches are the silent alpacas from Prime Keyboards, which also have that smoke gray translucent housing. These are lubed with 205 grade 0 for the housing and stems, and the springs are bag lubed with GPL 105 thin oil. I also included some rose pink films from TX Keyboards. These came out great. I'm very satisfied with the choice here. The only issue I had on one switch was that the silencing ring had slipped off one side of the stem. These are definitely tight with the films, but I feel like they added just that little extra I needed to make them virtually silent. For additional sound dampening, I also included a roughly 2.5 millimeter thick sheet of sorbethane inside the case. This material is really dense, it's stretchy, it's a little hard to work with, so this is kind of a butcher job here, but it was the perfect fit in terms of thickness, and it really helped tie it all together for that final layer of sound deadening. For the icing on top, I did add a brass weight to the bottom. This added roughly 320 grams over the standard aluminum insert, and it looks pretty nice. Keycap set here is Minterly's SA Bliss by way of Dixie Mac. Not my usual aesthetic for sure, but I couldn't resist the tie-in with the switches and the stabs, and the SA profile has been growing on me a lot lately. Now, because SA spacebars have a tendency to have this little high-pitched resonation to them, I did fill this spacebar with some of the leftover sorbethane. This is a really janky job, but you can't see it and you can really hear the difference it makes. You ready? So yeah, I am absolutely in love with the sound and the feel of this board. I don't own anything currently that holds a candle to it in terms of sound and feel. Definitely hit the mark in terms of weight as well, as this beefy boy here tips the scales at an astonishing 2 kilos or 4 pounds 9 ounces. This board does use QMK firmware, and if left to the KBD fans manual, you would be running in circles trying to get this thing programmed to do anything other than the stock red LEDs or make any kind of layout changes. Luckily, the QCK configurator provides a nice, easy graphic interface, so I was able to set this thing up so that not only the top layer is exactly the way I like it, but I also integrated a function layer that has full media functionality, full RGB control, and a couple options where I can change the backslash and caps lock keys to behave like the HHKB layout. In hindsight, I can't believe I was so resistant to the idea of learning how to solder for so long. It really is one of those things that it's easy to learn, it's difficult to master. Like, I wouldn't be really comfortable showing off my solder job in like a clear acrylic case, but the reality is you can be pretty bad at it and still get the job done. I did even have to desolder a couple switches, one for that bad dampening gasket inside the switch, and the other because I messed up the placement of the switch for the right shift. And it takes way less time to solder a whole board than it does to prep switches. About the only thing I'm not really big on with this board is the lighting. Not only is it just kind of weak in general, and yes, I definitely removed the backing paper from the diffuser, but it's poorly diffused, and where the case screws pass through the diffuser is really obvious. I went with the USB-C as well, and it can get a little tight there with some of the aftermarket cables, which I am still in need of for this bad boy if anybody out there is watching. Just saying. There is no per key lighting, and all the switches here are south facing, something that's been being brought up more and more, and we'll be talking about why in an upcoming video. I was also afraid the layout would feel a little cramped to me, like I may have wanted something with a little more breathing room, like the Idabao 75, but I'm so used to a 65%, this actually feels just fine to me. Really compact and everything's in reach. Okay, so the total bill on this guy. It should go without saying that virtually everything I've shown you in today's video is sold out based on current conditions out there, as was the kit when I went to purchase this from KBD fans, so I had to part out everything individually. Purchased right at the end of March, the case, plate, PCB, and brass weight got me for a total of $243 US shipped. 90 switches was around another $80 including the film, stabs were like 15 bucks with shipping, the sorbethane sheet was like 23 bucks, keycaps were bought from Extras, so that set got me for 180 US. So the total for this board as shown came to just over 525 bucks, with a big bulk of that cost obviously going into the keycaps, which are definitely a luxury item. I'm not including the cost of of any of the lube or the soldering setup, as those will be used for future builds. So looked at as a bare bones kit with no sound dampening, no weight, no switches, and no caps, it's right about $230 shipped, or like $210 shipped if you manage to score kit, and $180 shipped if you go aluminum over brass for the plate. Since I did just do that video on the Alt, the standard bare bones there will get you for $140. It does offer per key RGB, but the stabs need replacing. And it's hot swap, but the switches are north facing, which can cause some interference issues with certain combos of switches and GMK and Cherry profile caps. The high profile bare bones will get you for $190, and all the same things hold true, but in my opinion, the weight and the finish are superior on the Alt high profile versus this entry-level KBD board. The typing experience on this custom though is superior to anything I have typed on before. It's shockingly smooth and quiet and feels really solid. My last little commentary on soldering versus hot swap is this: if you don't really know what kind of switch you like yet, go hot swap until you get it figured out. Not because soldering is difficult, it's not, but because desoldering sucks. Like, I would 100% buy a brand new PCB if I were to change things out on this board before I would attempt to desolder everything on this board. With a good desoldering tool, I'm sure it's an easier task, but a good desoldering gun starts around $250, whereas I paid like $25 for this janky vacuum iron and solder wick, and it's an unpredictable nightmare. So I certainly don't feel like this is a bad place to start as an entry-level custom. I like the fact that you can add little upgrades, but it's really easy to run the price up on what still kind of feels like an entry-level custom in terms of fit and finish. And the market is changing fast right now. One company in particular is about to make some major waves in the industry that could completely change what we expect in an entry-level board with a shockingly low price point. And it's the next video out. Links down in the description for everything we talked about today. Any questions, hit me in the comments or drop by the Discord. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.